Good afternoon to all the sacristans, to all the new sacristans, and anybody who's joining us this afternoon or today. My name is Carlos Bautista, and I'm the director of liturgy at St. Elizabeth Seton Church. And today we are going to get started with the first session for the sacristans. And today's topic will be regarding the reference book that I made for the ministry of sacristan. So for today, you're going to if you would like to take this book out, either if you have it printed out, if I give you a printed copy of it, but I'm also going to be sending everybody an email with a PDF version of this reference book, so that you can use it to follow along with what I'm going to be talking about today. And then I'm going to be referencing a couple of things from this document called the General Instruction of the Roman Missal. And this is a very important document that basically gives an instruction on, and to put it in a couple of words, who can be, what's a liturgical function, who does liturgical functions, what is an acolyte, what is a lector, how can you do mass with a deacon, without a deacon, and it also includes this book, the norms for distributing communion in under both kinds. And so, if you remember in recent weeks ago, the Bishop Hicks, the Vicar General of the Archdiocese, sent out a couple of new norms regarding on the distribution of Holy Communion, and that actually will be coming from this book right here, the Code of Canon Law, and the General Instruction of the Roman Missal. Using that, it's all going to depend on our bishops and our priests to decide how communion gets distributed, who can distribute communion, etc., 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 and how do we receive communion. So this is a very important document for all the ministers to have. I invite you to if you are able, you can get a physical copy, or you can I believe you can find a PDF version online on the USCCB website. Which is the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Okay, so we can take a look at our reference book. The reason for this reference book is not so much so that I can make sure that all the sacristans are doing as best as they can to set up for mass. But the purpose for this is, number one, is so that all the sacristans could get to know the relationship with everything that they handle, from the chalice to the paten to the ciboria, etc., and not just having in mind that these are just dishes or cups, things that we find in our everyday kitchen, that we use in the sacristy, but these are special vessels, special instruments, special items that we use specifically for the celebration of the Mass. Okay, and so if we can take a look and open it up to page 2, which is on the back front cover. It's basically the table of contents. So it's divided into different sections: the introduction, the sacristy, the sacred vessels, the liturgical books, other things that we find in the sacristy, and then the last few pages is the last few parts. It will be just giving you an instruction on how to set up for 9 o'clock weekday mass. How to set up on Mondays if you are. I know that there are specific sacristans that are assigned for Mondays, but in case in the future there are new sacristans that are replacing the current sacristans who are serving on Mondays, that there will be an instruction that they can take home with them to know how to set up for anointing of the sick. Even though they will be training with the current sacristan, but just so they can take home with them and review it at home, they can see how to set up, review how to set up for anointing of the sick. Because I know that happens only once a week, and you know, like me, I sometimes forget when I do once when things happen once a week, and I have to do them once a week. So it's kind of take a little while to get used to memorize it. But that's one of its purpose to this is basically like a virtual sacristy that you can have in your house with you, so you can take a look at it, read it over, get to know the vessels in the sacristy. Okay, now let's turn the page. There's an introduction letter by me, written by me, and then on page 5, that's basically the sacristy itself. Okay, so we can see all the different parts of the sacristy. So here's like a panoramic photo image of the sacristy. So this is the entire sacristy of our parish, and then on the bottom we have the 3 different parts of the sacristy. So where we're going to find the Roman Missal, the lectionaries, the Book of the Gospels, the altar cloths, the corporals, where we're going to find the chalices, where we're going to find the ciboria, communion hosts, wine bottles, etc. So it's basically an overview of what the sacristy is, and then generally where you can find everything else. Okay, and now going into page 6, we find the 3 different chalices that we use for mass, for the 3 different for the 3 priests at our parish, plus our visiting priest, Father Reinhardt. And so this gives the overview of where you can find the chalice, and then who uses the chalice as well. So there you have the picture of Father Corcoran's chalice, Father John Zurich's chalice, and then the guest chalice, and Father Gubbins' chalice that the sacristans will need to know when they're picking out to see who is saying mass that day. And then we have the large ciboria, what they look like, and the large ciboria is basically the big bowl where we put the consecrated host into the tabernacle. And I think there's also a couple of large ciboria in one of the cabinets where you can take out and then put the certain number of sleeves of hosts in there when you are preparing for Sunday Mass. And then we have the small ciboria, which basically all the Eucharistic ministers use. On the next page, the gluten-free bowl, the bowl where now we put it out where the Eucharistic ministers check in. So we put it next to that person, that we put the Tupperware bin of gluten-free hosts, so that people do not have to go looking for me or looking for Father. They could just see the green Tupperware and then just open it up, put the host in there. But seeing that of everything that's going on, I think that is going to be changing, just so that we can take care of people in the future, of not to spread any sort of contagion, illness, etc. So before all of this, we allowed people to go open the Tupperware, grab a gluten-free host, and put it into the bowl. But now I think it's going to change after we come back to the parish. So we're gonna have to take care of that. The silver chalice that is used to distribute the precious blood, which is the small silver chalice. Certain number of chalices are used in different masses. But I since February, I think we stopped the distribution of the precious blood. Excuse me, because of the new norms that Bishop Hicks published to the Archdiocese. But there is the silver chalice that's there. Next, it's I think most of you don't know the name, but it's the paw. The paw is basically the square. The square I don't know how the square plastic that is wrapped in cloth that is placed over the chalice. So that's every priest except Father Corcoran uses it. Then we go to the next page, and then where we show where the where you can get the sleeves of hosts. There's 2 tin canisters on the bottom cabinets of the sacristy, where it's filled with hosts. And one of the things that I do want to stress out with all the sacristans is that if you are able refill the tin canisters. Okay, because there's been a couple of people that have come up to me, and it's totally fine, that have asked me to refill the canisters. Okay, but don't be afraid also to take initiative to refill the canisters if you are able. If you are not able, again, feel free to let me know, and then or let another sacristan know that the tin canister is in need of refilling, so that way we can all work together to refill and see where we need to add more hosts or wine bottles. I know that the box of wine bottles are a little heavy, so if you are able to grab the big box of wine bottles and refill the cabinet with wine bottles, then good. Otherwise, let me know, or let one of the sacristans know, that maybe they could help you with that. But don't be afraid to refill the canisters. Don't be afraid to put more wine bottles in the cabinets, because this is what being a sacristan is. This is your ministry. So this is so this is where you will have to come in. Okay, and now each sleeve of hosts contains about 100, and so it all depends on the mass, on how many people come in, that we put a certain number of hosts, and also depends on how many consecrated hosts there are in the tabernacle that we need to put a sleeve of hosts. So each sleeve is about 100, and typical Sunday we put about 200 to 300 hosts in the big ciboria. So it all depends on the tabernacle, how much, if it's half filled, already filled, or in rare cases it's almost empty, then we need to put a certain number of hosts on the ciborium. And then we purchased a new Tupperware with a red lid, and that's where we put the large communion hosts on there. Before we used I think it was a Ziploc bag, but to make it a little bit more organized, we put the big red Tupperware to put the big large communion host, which is the host that's used by the priest on Sunday masses. And the difference between the large and the medium hosts, which is the second big host that we use on the weekday masses, there's no really big difference. It's just the size of it. And so a priest can use a medium-sized communion host on Sunday, and vice versa. The large communion host can be used on a weekday, but in this case, our practice is to use the large communion host on Sundays. And then again, I'm trying to promote the use of the large communion hosts on solemnities and very special days too, since it's solemnities are a little at a rank higher than a regular Sunday mass. And then the medium communion hosts can just be used on a regular weekday mass. But again, there's no difference between the two. It's just the size. So one is a medium host, the other one is a big large host. And then the small hosts that are contained in the sleeve, those are for everybody that we distribute to. Okay. The next page is the gluten-free host, which comes in the green Tupperware, and that you're going to find actually in the freezer in the church office. So there, all the sacristans on the weekdays, they go back there and they retrieve that. Usually they know how many gluten-free hosts they pick out, because they know who consumes them, and so usually if you are a weekday sacristan, you're gonna have to remember to put gluten-free hosts into that silver dish, and then people who check in, the Eucharistic ministers, will take care of who helps Father carry the dish, and etc. Okay. And then below the gluten-free hosts on page 9, you will see two bins. One is the one that you're familiar with, which is the blue bin, where we put all the used purificators, any used altar cloths that have precious blood spilled on them, and then the bin next to it One of our new sacristans actually donated a couple of new towels for us, so we can use to wipe the chalices, the ciboria, and so as a result, she also placed a bin next to the blue bin, and then the blue green bin, so we could put all the used towels in there so that so that they can get washed. And so that's a really nice addition to the sacristy. That way we can take a little bit more care of for the vessels, even if everybody has taken care of the vessels, but we sort of needed to change the linens a little bit more because of how long they have been used, how long they have been in use, and so we needed to change the cloths into more new, cleaner ones. And so that's what the white bin is used for. Those are for the towels, and those are for the cloths that we use for cleaning the vessels. Okay, and then the green bin is still in use for the purificators and the altar cloths. Okay, so those are all our sacred vessels that we use, and all the places that we put the cloths, like the purificators that are stained with the blood of Christ. And so if there are any questions up at this point, if you can write them down or email me or write a comment on the video, and so that way I can see and then address your questions as necessary. Okay. Now, on page 10, you will see the liturgical books. In a general liturgy session, I will go over all the different kinds of liturgical books that are out there, that are in use in the church. But the three most popular, or not popular, the three most usual books that you're going to be encountering are the Roman Missal, or the Red Book. How many of you use it? This is a copy of the Roman Missal. This is a different publisher. So if you see different Roman missals that look different, or maybe on the inside pages they look very, very different or very odd to you, very unfamiliar, it's just a different publisher. It doesn't mean that the one Roman missal has more things than the other. It's just a different publisher. The Book of the Gospels, which is the book that is brought out on Sundays and on special solemnities. And that book, remember, is placed next to the two cross and the two candles in the cross, where the altar servers pick them up, and it's at that little table on the side wall, where we also put a copy of the prayers of the faithful, where the lectors pick it up and read and practice. And then the third one is the lectionary. There are three types of lectionaries that we have in the sacristy. One is labeled A, another B, and another C. Currently, this year we're using A, which is the green book, and that is used for the readings, the regular first and second readings of Sundays. And here I have a copy of a different lectionary, and this lectionary has all three ear cycles, meaning A, B, and C. At a future video, I will explain what A, B, and C means. And so this is a one volume Sunday lectionary, where we can just pick out the readings of the day. Okay. And then on the page 11 is the microphones. Which priest uses which microphone, and then then we put the labels on there. Currently, we are having a couple of issues with our microphones, and so we are working on updating the labels and making sure that our microphones are working well. So there we're going to be updating that page for all of you to know. And I know that some of you stress that. Some of you stress the struggle of knowing which priest uses which microphone. So and I know it took me a couple of days to get used to who uses which. And so but now that hopefully when we come back we can update the microphones to so it could be easier for everybody to identify and to bring out. Okay. Next, we have the cruets on page 12. The cruets. If you know what a duet is, then you know what a cruet is. A duet is two people singing a song in two parts, and so if you know if you can think about the duets, then you can figure out what a cruet is. So it's a cruet is the cruet is the two similar little jars where one we filled it with wine, and the other one we filled it with water, and those two are brought up and put up in onto the gifts table on the back of the church where we put the big basket of the collection. And if you're doing the weekday sacristan, we put the cruets in the back credence table behind the altar. And so those are the cruets. One was filled with wine, the other one is filled with water. The next one is the finger bowl with the small purificator, and those either is brought. Father uses it in the back credence table on the weekdays, or the altar servers bring it up during Sundays. And that's the bowl where the priest puts his fingers in the little small dish, little bowl, and then the altar servers use the cruet of water, where Father washes his hands and then uses the purificator to dry. Okay. And then we have on page 12, we have the key to the tabernacle, and then the plastic cup. The plastic cup is very important, especially after certain incidents. I know that one of the things is that Father Reinhardt and Father Gubbins uses drinks a cup of water before Mass or during Mass. So I stress to this. I'm going to start stressing to the sacristans to not forget to put a cup of water for whenever Father Reinhardt says Mass, which is don't want him to get sick in the middle of Mass, and the water will help him to stay hydrated, to stay cool, especially during the coming months. God willing, if we come back and it starts getting hot. Just make sure that we put a cup of water for them, and also for Father Gubbins too, whenever he requests it. Page 13 is the altar cloth and the corporal. Now, one of the things that is the rule is we have to constantly change the altar cloth and the corporal whenever there's a couple of stains of the precious blood of Christ. And so whenever you see the altar cloth stained with the blood of Christ, make sure that if you can change it out and bring out a new one, just so that we can keep the sanctity of the vessels and of the cloths in check as well. The next one is the wooden tray. One of the things that I'm going to put next to the wooden tray in future editions of this reference book is our newly purchased cart. And the cart is used for any sacristan that has the need of it. So in this case, if it's very arduous and hard for you to carry the wooden tray with all the heavy vessels up, use the cart. Don't be afraid to use the cart. The only thing I do recommend is not to bring the cart through where the baptismal font is, because that's where the floor turns into tile, and so when you drive the cart through the tile, it starts to make this very loud noise, and people are praying in the churches. People are preparing for Mass. People are in the moment, you know. How some of us say is they're in the moment, and so we're afraid of when we're passing through the cart and then making that loud noise. It's going to disturb everybody. So if we can just once we get into the church, we go around and then we just stay on the carpet. We stay on the carpet at all times, and that way we don't make too much noise and disrupt people's prayer and silence and reflection. But the wooden tray and the carts are there to help you carry the vessels in and out of the church, and to and from the sacristy. Okay. Now on the next page, we have 14. We have the paraffin for the candles and the big 5 gallon of paraffin. Paraffin is also a word for oil. So if you see that in the candles next to the altar, and the candle next to the ambo, you can just, the way that you check is you're gonna have to turn the top part of the candle, and you're going to slowly lift it up. And because there's a long I don't know if you call it rope, not rope, but like a I don't know what's it called, but that's this little piece of cloth that runs down into the paraffin, and then from there you can just look inside to see how much paraffin there's in the candle. And if you see there's not much paraffin in there, then it probably needs a refill. And then once you're done refilling the paraffin, just make sure that you bring a cloth with you, and you wipe the excess paraffin that probably fell out, or that you see on the little tray on the bottom of the candle, in the middle of the candle. And then once you tie the top portion, make sure do not tighten it up very much, because then when we try to open it to refill, it's a little hard to reopen, especially when it's a little hot. So just turn it, and once you reach the end, just leave it there. Okay, and then you will find the paraffin in those plastic bottles. You can just open it up and then refill it like that. Page 15, the sink. Now, in part 3 of the Sacristan series, I will show you how to purify the vessels. Okay, but one of the things about the sacred vessels is that after Mass, there's still precious blood in the chalices, or there's still crumbs of the body of Christ in the ciboria. And so one of the things that all the sacristans do is that they fill the sacred vessels with water, they let it fill up, and then they basically just let the water fall down into the sink. Now, one of the problems with that is that we don't have a special sink called a sacrarium. So one of the uses for the sacrarium is to purify and to wash the sacred vessels. Not to dump extra blood of Christ, or dump the crumbs, or dump extra or pour that's a wrong word. Pour extra blood of Christ, or drop in there extra consecrated Eucharist, but it's because that's against canon law. But what we use the sacrarium for is to purify the vessels. So I already taught some of the new sacristans on how to purify the vessels, and I'm going to be teaching all other sacristans how to purify the vessels before you clean them with soap, and we clean them thoroughly. Okay, because that's the step that everybody doesn't seem to know, that you have to purify the vessels before you actually clean them with soap, just so that we can again keep the sacredness of what we're doing, of our ministry, and what the sacraments that we're handling in the sacristy. Okay, so that's the sink. Trash and recycling. So we recycle the bottles. So again, if you are putting the bottles next to the trash can, continue to do so. But I think that in the future we're gonna have to find a recycling bin to put all the wine bottles in there, just so that it seems a little cleaner. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the first half of the reference book. The second half of the reference book is just setting up for Mass. And I know that everybody has their own routine, has their own way of setting up for Mass, and that's good. That's great. If it's helpful for you, great. I'm not going to change that a lot. So I'm not going to be making you do it my way, or make it do it the other way. I mean, whatever you're doing to set up for Mass, whatever is easier, continue to do it. Make sure that you consider using the cart if you are able to, if you are in need of it. And now I just want to turn your attention to the general instruction of the Roman Missal. Now, the reason why I am showing you or giving you all of this is for these reasons. So the role of sacristan in the church is a liturgical function. So it's sort of a very important aspect of the liturgy, because without the sacristans, we wouldn't have anything set up. Technically, we would have everybody trained as a sacristan, just so that just because of the need. All right, just because of the need. Because in this case, not to the full extent, but to a certain extent, where every single minister needs to know what their function is in the church. So, for example, a lector should know where the book of the Gospels is. A lector should know where the lectionary is, and up to that point, that should be enough for them. So, in this case, if they don't see the book of the Gospels out on a Sunday, they should know where to find it. If the lectionary is not out, they should know where to find it. If on a weekday, if you don't see the lectionary, the pages that are in there, or I haven't updated it, that's where you need to come look for me because I have I usually have the new version of the lectionary, and it comes in loose leaf. Okay, so a liturgical function is number 105 in the general instruction of the Roman Missal. The sacristan who diligently arranges the liturgical books, the vestments, and other things that are necessary for the celebration of Mass. Okay, I know that the sacred vestments are not your responsibility, but because the priests usually take care of that themselves, they usually pick out what vestment they're going to use, what color it is, but everything else, the sacristans have the responsibility to do so. So the liturgical books, making sure that they're on the right page. And then other things that are necessary for Mass, so the chalices, the ciboria, the priest's chalice, the cruets, etc. Okay, and then for the sacred vessels, and that we're going to look at number 327 on the general instruction of the Roman Missal. Number 327, among the requisites for the celebration of Mass, the sacred vessels are held in special honor, and among these especially the chalice and paten, in which the bread and wine are offered and consecrated, and from which they are consumed. Now, it's okay, and I won't mind at all, that everybody calls the sacred vessels a cup, a bowl, because it's normal terms for us. It's the way that we understand what we're talking about, and also we don't really know the formal names of each sacred vessel. So every time you talk to me about a red book, or a cup, or the priest's cup, or the bowls, or the big bowls, etc., I know what you're talking about. but just to keep in mind that these are not your regular bowls. These are not your regular books. These are not your regular cups. These are very special vessels that are used in the Mass, and they have their specific names. So that's another reason why I created the reference book for all of you. So that way you can continue to look at them to see what are they called. That's how you are staying in touch with your ministry. You know, their names. So sort of how you're staying in touch with other people. Okay, what is that person's name again? You don't say, oh, that girl, or that lady, or that man, or that gentleman over there. You know, it's a little bit it means more when you call them by their name. Oh, that's John, or that's Susie, or that's Megan, etc. So it's again with our sacred vessels. Oh, that's the chalice. Those are our silver chalices. Those are our ciboria. Those are our cruets. And I know it takes it's going to take a little time, but if you are still comfortable using the normal terms like cups, bowls, I'm gonna know what you're talking about, and I'm not gonna get mad. But just know that it's I'm just stressing the how important it is for you to distinguish between a regular cup and a chalice that we use in Mass. So that'll be it for today's session. I know that this is something that I wanted to talk about in our meeting that we were supposed to have, but due to the pandemic, we're not able to meet as a community, as a family. But this is just part one of the Sacristan series. So we went over the first half of the reference book. what you're going to find in there, the proper names of each vessel, of the cloths, of the microphones, etc. And then we went over a couple of parts of the general instruction of the Roman Missal of you as sacristans performing a liturgical function and not just a extracurricular activity. So this is a liturgical function. You are part of the liturgy. And the funeral altar servers, now that I'm mentioning funeral altar servers, I'm going to send a copy of this book also to them, because they are sacristans during a funeral. So hopefully this book will be helpful for them to use, and also for them to see that they are performing two liturgical functions when they're doing funerals. So they're doing the altar serving and then doing the sacristan. And so and then the last thing that we went over was the importance of the vessels, this distinguishing of the two different kinds of vessels. So one is a cup that we use when we're drinking soda, water, orange juice, and the other vessel is actually a chalice where we consume the precious body of the precious blood of Christ, and also the body of Christ on the ciborium, not just a regular bowl when we have our food, our cereal, etc. I know that this video has been a little long. I promised 10 minutes, but I guess it turned out to be a long 45-minute lecture. But these are just but hopefully this knows that there's so much to talk about. There's so much to go into dialogue about, and I know that again. This is not to make any changes at all. This is just for me to see that all the sacristans know and understand the relationship between the relationship that they have between themselves and their ministry. This is not just like a volunteer work that you do for not to get bored at Mass, but this is an actual function that you do when you're participating in Mass. So this is something extra that you do while you participate during Mass. So the participation of Mass is crucial to our faith, and participating is not just doing something. Participating, I mean responding, listening, singing. Okay, I know that our music is beautiful, and I've seen how powerful our music can be for the community. So singing, our hand gestures that we do, that's participating in Mass. Participating does not really mean doing something, reading, sacristy, altar server, greeter. No, participating in Mass is actually doing those things, singing, doing our gestures, like when we're praying and we do this. When we do this, some of us do this when we're praying the Our Father. Some of us dance. In this case, move in our pews, and we feel the Spirit inside of us. Some of us are listening. Some of us are praying, offering up our prayers and intentions. That's participating in the Mass. So every time I say participate in the liturgies, that's what I mean. So it's not technically meaning like doing something, but something else. But I usually mean to do exactly that. Be present in Mass, ready to listen, ready to respond, ready to sing. Okay. So on Thursday, we will continue with the lectors, and the topic for the lectors will be trying to see the importance of proclaiming the word in the scriptures, or where we see people in the scriptures proclaiming the word. And so here we're going to be looking at the prophets. We're going to be looking specifically to John the Baptist and to Jesus himself, because he also proclaimed God's word when he returned to his hometown, where he got in trouble with the people. And we're going to be going over those pieces. And then next week we'll be doing the altar servers. So I will be giving my own personal story on how I became an altar server. And then finally on Thursday next week we'll be doing the greeters. Okay, and then from there in 2 weeks we will come back with the sacristans on our next topic. And don't forget, Wednesdays and tomorrow Wednesday and tomorrow and then Friday we will be doing new prayers. So tomorrow we will be doing the liturgy of the hours, And on Friday, we will be praying the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And then Saturday, we will be doing a special general liturgy session where we just talk about liturgy itself, about its different topics surrounding anything to liturgy. Okay. Thank you very much, Sacristans. Hope to hear from you, your comments, your questions. Please ask questions. And also my teachers have been telling me this from the beginning. No question is silly, no question is that. And so please, even though it's complicated, the question, I will lead you to the right direction as best as I can. I don't know everything, but hopefully I can help you as best as I can. Thank you very much again, Sacristans. God bless, and please stay safe.